Like I was thinking earlier about like how smooth and cool and easy it was to live in Delaware with, Stephanie and her parents, and we were sharing the bills, and everything was just cruising along, and it seemed like that was going to go on forever, you know what I mean? Like it just seemed like it seemed like that's where we were going to be for like years to come.
Yep.
And it was crazy because it was out of nowhere that Stephanie came to me upset, and her uncle, the one that was the chief of police, he had died. That was Mr. Reese's brother. And I didn't see it then, but that was like the beginning of a whole like landslide of things that were gonna pretty much fuck that whole situation up. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like, but like I think it was almost exactly a month later that her father passed away, and it was sudden. It was real sudden. It was like I saw that it seemed like he wanted out, because every day he was just overdoing his meds and things like that. And I would go downstairs and grab something to eat, and I would see him like clawing, trying to climb up the steps because he took too much of, like, I don't want to say what,
Yeah.
And man, I was just like, God, this guy's so strong. I always thought, he's just gonna sleep it off. It's cool because he was somebody I looked up to, and he was also somebody that would always tell me I was like the son he never had and stuff like that. We got along really good. And then that morning, out of nowhere, I woke up to Stephanie screaming, Jim, my dad's dead. And it's like, nah way. I just figured I'd come in, maybe, have to shake him awake. And as soon as, like, you could see in the way the dogs were acting, you could see that, like, they were, like, backpedaling away from him. And those dogs loved him. And as soon as I went over to try to roll him over, it was just stiff. I was like, oh my God. And right when that happened, it wasn't like a week later, Stephanie's mom was starting to like disappear and try to make excuses, why she wanted us to leave, but like, which was okay, but she wanted us to leave right away. And I don't know, it was like, she just, it seemed like once he died, then, we all knew that he had a healthy life insurance plan, and I know that the mom wanted us out of there so that way she didn't have to share it with us, which is cool, and I didn't want it. I would have rather had him there and have everything go back to the way it was, but it was never going to happen. And just, the way she acted was kind of, to me it felt like she was like being an asshole, but at the same time, like, she went from living with her mom all through school and stuff, and her mom was well off, so she always got everything she wanted, to living with Mr. Reese, and he did the same thing, always took care of her, and she always had somebody there to take care of her, and they had a decent amount of money, so it was then, I just attribute it to, like, she didn't know what to do, because it was the first time she didn't have somebody like that, and I swear it was like somebody pulled the rug out from under us. She said she was going somewhere one day, and then all of a sudden, her and her other daughter were, making threats and trying to, bring the cops around because they knew I didn't want to be around the cops. I still had warrants at the time and stuff. So, and that's really like, I don't know if that's where it started, but that's where it really like put it into like, this is to the path that I'm traveling now, like being here with you guys. It all started there. And it was, I don't know, it was just like, it was all so sudden, and it was just like, this wasn't like, okay, I got 30 days to leave and I got somewhere else to go. It was like, we got to get out ASAP, and we ain't got nowhere to go. And on top of it, I was so addicted at the time, and it's hard to leave where you're at when that's where your connects are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so, and not to have any safety net, but at the same time have nowhere else to go. And that was, that was when it was like, you know what? I mean, for what seemed like forever, I think from like 14 years old, I was addicted, starting with like, the pills and stuff. And at that point, when all this was happening, I was completely like, I was addicted to heroin in every way possible. I needed it to get out of bed. I needed it to fall asleep at night, everything. But that was such a serious situation. For me, I know I was just like, okay, well, if I can find somewhere to go, I can get away from this. And after like 30 years or 20 some years of being stuck there, it was like, this shit is going to be tough, but I think this is the time that this has to happen. So I packed up what I could, and we hopped on a Greyhound, and thankfully Robin and Brian were there, that we had somewhere to go, and it was somewhere cool. We were going to Tampa, Florida. I'd never been to Florida. It's always nice there. It's my best friend and my sister. It's going to be cool. And we bought a whole bunch of drugs, hopped on the Greyhound, and went. And it was like, when these drugs are over, that's going to be it. I didn't really believe it, but I had to do something. And it was crazy because I was scared. I didn't know what to do. Those withdrawals are a nightmare. And once we got there and I started getting to my last things, that once I found out about Kratom, I gave it a shot, and I'll be damned if it wasn't just like, it wasn't the same, but it took all the really bad feelings away, It took all the real...
Amazing. That's so amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy. I did not believe something like that was going to work.
I don't think I've ever heard of a story like that where heroin abuse has been cut off and replaced, well, not replaced, but
basically replaced, with something that's actually natural and legal.
Natural. Yes.
And that's, that's where a lot of those kind of stories is where I get a lot of my strength from, because like we've talked about before, I mean, I've never heard anybody else tell me a story. I know there's plenty of people stronger than me. I'm not trying to be like that, but like, I had to kind of feel good about myself that when those drugs ended, that was really the end of it. That was really the end of it. I smoked some bud or whatever, but for the most part, like, all the dangerous stuff was gone. And I had uncomfortable feelings, but I was able to just go through it. And like a month into it, when I'm like, wow, I really just walked away from the dope and never turned back. If I can do that, even with the help that I had, if I can do something like that, there's really, sky's the limit. What else? What couldn't I do?
Because that's a miracle in itself.
Yeah. And that was one of the heartbreakers, was when we went back to Delaware, which why I was against from the very beginning. I didn't want to go back. There's nothing left for me up there. I wanted to stay in Florida. Things were working. I had a chance to start my life over and become anything that I wanted. I could be a better Jim, you know what I mean? I always liked who I was, but I didn't like those kind of things that were holding me back. I was dragging around a backpack full of bricks for almost 30 years. And to be able to drop that and walk away, it was just like, it happened at the same time I went to Tampa, so it filled me with confidence. But, Stephanie got homesick, and she went, and she wanted to go back, and she wasn't hearing anything else. And I love her so much There was no way that I was going to say, go get on a Greyhound and go back to Delaware. Good luck. No way. Even though I didn't want to do it, every fiber of my being was telling me to stay in Florida. But she was going, and that was my heart and my safety net and my best friend and all those things. So I went back. I got on the bus and we went back up there. And you know the story. Like, it was, we were there maybe 5 days, and her mom was being cool and helpful, but also I was going over and like ripping carpet out of her house and cleaning things and getting her ready to sell her house. And as soon as she didn't need me anymore, then she said, nope, I'm not helping you guys anymore. I don't want you around. Tough shit. And then there I am, back again, standing on the side of the fucking road in Delaware, where I didn't want to be, going, what the fuck do we do now? What do we do now? You came back up here, and it was my choice to go up there because I love her, but it happened exactly the way I knew it was going to happen. Right. I mean, I thought it would take a little longer for it to happen, but nonetheless, it still happened. And then, you know, I had a breakdown, and, you know, cops showed up, and they took her to a mental facility over in this one part of Delaware, and took me to a mental facility in another part of Delaware. And it was crazy, because at that moment, I'm sitting there like, man, I can't picture life without her. But I have to start picturing it, because I'm not going downhill. I was jumping off a freaking cliff. You know what I mean? My life was going to go straight back down to the bottom. Yeah. That's why I was like, you know, I want to go to Georgia. My mom, my sister, they're there. You know, I can be with family. You know, Stephanie wanted to stay in Delaware and get her own apartment. So it was like, okay, cool, let's do that. You go ahead. You stay here if that's what you want. And get your stuff together. And get whatever you need, you know what I mean? Get an apartment, a car, whatever you need. And in 6 months, we'll talk to each other. And if we're in the right place, you know, I'll come back. If you have your own apartment where I don't have to be around your family, or especially mom, because I was feeling some type of way about her at that point, then I'll come back. And that was honestly, I mean, that was my plan. You understand? I was exactly what I wanted to do. And I came down and with you guys, and things were going good for me. And you know, I would talk to Stephanie, how's things going? And she wanted me back up there right away, because, you know, still used to the whole instant gratification thing. And thankfully, I stayed strong and said, no, I'm going to stay doing what I said we should do. It's only been, what at that time, maybe a month and a half.
If it was even that long.
Yeah, right. And then so it was too soon, basically. It was too soon. I was still in a dangerous place. I was still waking up thinking of drinking and drugs every minute, you know, trying to hide it so, you know, nobody saw it, but still doing that. But, you know, it kept going on, and I kept talking to her, but I kept saying, I'm going to stay here. This is what's best for us. She hit me up. Oh, I got an apartment with a roommate. Come back. No, it's not time yet. I'm here with my family. I'm healing in a way that you can't help me with, but I love you, so let's keep the same plan. After 6 months, we'll decide. If things are going well, I'll come back up. And then that phone call. That really changed everything. To get that call from my dad and be like, as soon as he said, Jim, I need you to sit down. I knew.